it is important to note that the initialization, testing and incrementation part of for loop can be replaced by any valid expression. So here we know that uh, initialization, testing and the incrementation. So this part can be replaced. That means now in first statement for I is equal to 10, then I and I minus minus. So here it is uh, so the first part is replaced. Now I is less than 4, then j is equal to 5, j is equal to 0. Printf percent %d I. So here it is also replaced by another expression. Now for I is equal to 1, then I is less than or equal to 10, then printf percent %d I plus plus. That means here commands also are being used. Now for scanf percent %d and I is less than or equal to 10, I plus plus. Printf percent %d I. So here that part is replaced. Now program A, main int I for I is equal to 1, I is less than or equal to 10, I is equal to I plus 1. Printf percent %d slash n I. Note that the initialization, then testing and incrementation of loop counter is done in for statement itself. Instead of I is equal to I plus 1, the statements I plus plus or I plus is equal to 1 can also be used. So instead of I is equal to I plus 1, the statement I plus plus or I plus or equal to 1 can also be used. Since there is only one statement in body of for loop, the pair of braces have been dropped. As with the while, default scope of for is the immediately next statement after it. So as with the while, default scope of for is the immediately next statement after for. So program B, main int I for I is equal to 1, I is less than or equal to 10. Printf percent %d slash n I is equal to I plus 1. Here the incrementation is done within the body of for loop and not in the for statement. So here the incrementation is done within body of for loop and not in the for statement. Now program C, main int I is equal to 1 for I is less than 10, then I is equal to I plus 1. Printf percent %d slash ni. Here the initialization is done in the declaration statement itself, but still the semicolon before condition is necessary because the initialization is done in the statement. That means is not done in statement, but it is done in int I is equal to 1. So it is not necessary in for statement to write such initialization. Now D, main int I is equal to 1 for I is less than or equal to 10, printf percent %d n comma I is equal to I plus 1. Here neither the initialization nor the incrementation is done in for statement, but still two semicolons are necessary. So here the initialization is done in int I is equal to 1. So that is initialization. Now that incrementation is done in I is equal to I plus 1. So that is incrementation. So but in for statement, two semicolons are given before I is less than or equal to 10. So those are necessary. So it is not necessary to write everything in for statement. You can write it separately also, like it is written in example D, that is program D.